Everything is different. Then where am I actually in comparison to where I think I am? That's a completely different, all of that. And again, we're getting very specific here, but I think a good habit or a good tactic would be go on Google and type, what are the top 20 questions I can ask myself to help with self-awareness? I feel like that would be very, very powerful.
What's the limiting belief that has disguised itself as empowering? You can do anything you set your mind to is not true. It's inaccurate. You can do a lot more than you probably think long term. That's more accurate.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1893, are you asking yourself the wrong questions? I've been on many podcasts and said this, many leather-bound books. On many podcasts, I've said this. That's the proper way to set this up. I believe why is one of the most valuable questions you can ask yourself. But now, with a higher awareness, I also think eventually, if you only ask yourself why, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. So as an example, why did I have such low self-worth? One of the reasons is because my dad left. I think one of the other reasons is because I grew up without a lot of money. I took jobs that were entry-level positions that I usually was looked down on, and that became my narrative. Low self-worth, low self-worth, low self-worth. Okay, when I'm 26, 27, I say, why do I have such low self-worth? Even though I didn't, because I didn't know what low self-worth was, but let's say I did. I could say, oh, yeah, my dad left, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Okay.
And I'm shot.
And I'm short, yeah. That's what Alan was saying in his, I don't know what accent that was, but...
Shot judge.
Shot judge. That why is going to lead me to an answer, but I have to... So then there's a couple questions that can come after that. Okay, how do I turn that around? I think if you stay in why for too long, it's a dangerous game. I think if you stay in how for too long, it's a dangerous game. I think if you stay in when for too long, it's a dangerous game. And what's the other one?
Who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Where, I feel like where doesn't matter as much.
Whoa. Where are you going?
Yeah, but I mean like...
Where are you going?
I guess that's it. That's a jam.
Yeah, it is.
Nothing like taking a little acid and lying in the field listening to some Dave Matthews Band. Never done that, but I've always been afraid of hallucinogenics. I
never told you this story. I went to Dave Matthews.
Dave Bathrooms?
Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
I went to a Dave Matthews Band concert, and I tried to sneak in the back. We didn't get in.
You didn't get in?
There was a fence. I forget where this venue was. I used to run amok. And we were supposed to jump this fence or go underneath it and like climb through the woods and get in. And I mean, you could hear inside. It sounded like the best thing in the entire world. Everyone was loving it. And we pre-gamed. We did what is it called when you, before a football game or whatever?
Tailgate.
Tailgate. Yeah, we tailgated. And I didn't get in. Huge disappointment.
That was
a tough night. It's not good.
Would you guys just hang out in the parking lot?
I've been to 3 concerts in my entire life, yeah. And one of them I didn't get in.
Honestly, sometimes the tailgate's the best part.
Yeah, for sure.
So at least you got to tailgate.
So off topic. But
yeah, of course.
Pre-game's the best thing, but you need a game to go to. Seriously. Otherwise, the pre-game's empty. I realized that in college. I said my favorite part is the pre-game and the post party. But if there's no party, it doesn't make it it's not as fun.
I could care less. I don't want to go to the party anyway. So let's just pregame and then go to sleep. Awesome. Love that. The best. It is. Nice. The post-game is sleep. It's the best.
And that's the difference between Kevin and I, right there.
Yes. That's my thesis in this episode. I think why is one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. I think you can ask it too much. I think how is a great question, but if you have the how but you don't know why, it's not as powerful. So that is today's topic. Are you asking yourself the wrong questions? Now, I think those are all right questions. It's just circumstantial. But Alan texted me and said, hey, I feel like we haven't done an episode on questions in a while. Let's do an episode on questions. And that's my origin story.
Shout out to Matt. Not, I say your Matt, but not your best friend, Matt. Matt, my client. Matt, shout out to you, brother. We were on a coaching session last week, this past Monday, actually. And I said, what's the one thing that could change everything?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
That's a good question.
And I was thinking about it earlier today, actually, learning each day. Because I was learning leadership earlier. And lately I've been trying to get back into, I used to wake up every day and I would learn. First thing.
Yes.
First third is for me. Second third is for service. Third is for fitness, food, and family. That was how my days were structured before I got so overwhelmed and I stopped learning in the morning and I kind of started to hate my life playfully a little bit. I can't stand it when I don't have a morning where I can actually learn. I feel like I'm working on other people's lives more than my own, which is really not sustainable whatsoever.
No.
Because I need to lead by example, so it just drives me crazy. So can you imagine? So John Maxwell says this. He said, when I was younger, I listened to a tape by Earl Nightingale, which is one of the early personal development thinkers of the day. And he said, Earl said this. Earl, my man Earl, what a weird name. Earl Nightingale said, if you learn for an hour a day, every day for 5 years, you can be an expert in any topic you want. And that's why John Maxwell chose leadership. He said, I'm going to learn leadership every day for 5 years. And he said, at the beginning, it was, how long can I do this? How long can I do this? How long until I'm an expert? By the end, and this is what John says, he says, it eventually became, how far can I go? And self-improvement, leadership, and business are I call them my three subjects. So everyone out there watching or listening, what are your subjects? What are the things that you're going to be a subject expert in? Self-improvement is obviously one of ours. So if I'm not learning self-improvement every day, so what's the one thing that could change everything? That's a great question. For me, what came up is learning every day.
That's been mine, for sure.
30 minutes a day, on average. Next Level University. Next Level U, pun intended. If you were to really, what's the one thing that could change everything? If you do actually listen, I have some clients that have listened to this show every single day. They check it off their tracker, habit tracking. I'm telling you, I notice a difference. I do. It can be a pain in the butt. Listeners, viewers, we get it. Like, we're basically, hey, get after it. Hey, get after it. Hey, have you thought of this? Hey, get after it. It can be exhausting. It really can.
Yeah.
And we review the show less than we should, but we understand it's a lot of content, and it can be difficult when you're struggling to look at more mirrors. How inadequate are you? Like, I know how hard it can be, but if you can do that one thing, it could change everything. And I've seen a huge uptick. And this isn't just me selling our podcast. Anything. If it's not us, make sure it's something. If it's not NLU, make sure you're learning every day. That's one. But the question is, what's the one thing that can change everything? I think that's a really powerful question.
So we were in Florida one time, and it was Alan, myself, and Eddie Pinero of Your World Within, and we were working out. Eddie had a gym in the basement of his apartment complex. We were down there getting ready for an event. I think we did a trip down there to talk about the event. I don't think we were down there for the event at that time. But I remember we were working out, and we were crushing it, and you and I are in really good shape, and I was leading the workout. I was the bodybuilder. I had been exercising longer. I usually led workouts. That was usually the thing that I did. And I was 10 out of 10 confident. I felt amazing. About myself. We finished the workout, and then we sat down, and we started talking about business. And I remember my internal dialogue was, Eddie and Alan are so freaking arrogant when it comes to business. Because I just went from a position of power, 10 out of 10 confidence. This is my jam. We're in the gym. This is my jam. To, I don't know anything about business. And one of the best, most powerful, most appropriate questions I ever asked was, is the way I'm feeling a me problem, or is it a them problem? Is this because of them, or is this because of my own inadequacies? Is this because I haven't studied business and I'm villainizing them for knowing more than I do? Am I feeling bad about myself, or are they making me feel bad about myself? And it was the first one. This was a me problem. This wasn't Alan and Eddie. This had nothing to do with them. It was just a mirror that was presented to me that I had to look in, and I wasn't ready to look in. Some of those questions have changed my life as long as you're willing to answer them. That's the hard part, right? You can ask yourself all the questions in the world. If you don't answer them honestly, that's what makes it really, really challenging. I love working with clients where I literally said this to someone today, and we're going to do an episode on it tomorrow, so I'm not going to give away the question. But I said, do you mind if I ask you a really weird question? And she said, we love weird. I said, I know we love weird. And it's just, I said, you're the weirdest client I have, respectfully. Not you as a person. I'm a podcast coach. We got to the end, and she said, I actually think I have some video that needs to be edited. I'll have to find someone. And I said, we do that. And she's like, you do that? And I said, don't forget, I'm a podcast coach, right? We have a podcast production company. I know you and I don't ever talk about the podcast, ever. We never, ever talk about your podcast. We talk about other stuff. But our relationship is very, very weird. And a lot of the breakthroughs that we've had together, I'm not saying I've given the breakthroughs. I just asked the right question. And this person has enough courage, has enough humility, and has enough honesty to actually answer the question. And I'm sure you have similar. It's really hard to work with someone who's not willing to answer the question.
Yeah.
Same for you. It's really hard to work on yourself if you're not willing to answer. If you're not willing to answer the question. I say this all the time. When I used to think, and I would eventually get to a place where I'd say, okay, I can't think anymore about this. There's no more constructive thoughts. And then I'd say, well, let's see what happens. Let me try to push through this. And I always got to an answer. But I think your brain wants you to go do something else. Like, we've come far enough here. There's no point in digging deeper. I think you can always dig a little bit deeper. And then when you dig deeper, that becomes a new muscle. And then you can, and I'm sure Alan knows the science way more than I do, but then next time you can dig a little bit deeper, and you can dig a little bit deeper. I remember when you and I used to have deep conversations, there would become a point where we would go too far, and then I was just done. My brain would just shut off. It's like overheating. Can't do it anymore. And now
you tripped the circuit breaker.
They tripped the circuit breaker. We're done. Yeah, we got to cool it off for a little bit. But that never happens anymore. It's now I'm just more capable because I've been asked questions and I've answered those questions. I'm asking myself those questions. So it's always hard to do episodes like this because do I have a list of, and maybe you do I have a list of 5 of the most valuable questions to ask yourself? No. But I think just the fundamental of asking yourself questions is one of the best ways to build self-awareness.
It is the best way.
And
that's
self-awareness
what thinking is asking and answering questions.
Right. And self-awareness is a superpower.
Yeah. Okay, break this down.
Break it down.
The difference between you and I in our mid-30s versus you and I in our mid-20s is we're more aware. Because we're more aware, we can make better choices. Because we make better choices, we can get better outcomes. Everyone wants better outcomes, but that's not where you start. You have to, when I say goals, metrics, habits, skills, identity, the outcomes that you want in life. So everyone think of an outcome you want in life. So I'm thinking of the physique I want. Kev, think of an outcome. What's an outcome you want in life? Anyone.
I would like a BMW M2. It's like the nicest version of my car.
Okay, nice. All right, so that's an outcome. We both have an outcome. Okay, yep. That's great. That's where you start. Cool. What is the difference? Okay, how do you get that BMW? There's a question. Oh. But how do you get that BMW? Then you start your thought process. Go ahead.
I master finances.
Okay, how do you master finances?
Study finances more and more. I try to focus on making more money. I try to focus on optimizing expenses as a business owner and personally. And then I figure out where do I invest my money? Where does the money that I make go? What do I do with it to make more money or whatever?
Okay, what's one way you can earn more money?
Get more clients.
Okay, what's one way you can get more clients?
Do more free podcast breakthrough sessions.
What's one way you can do more free podcast breakthrough sessions?
Go on a ton of podcasts.
What's one way you can go on more podcasts?
Send messages to podcasters.
Right. And so there it is. So Kevin knows exactly how to get his BMW. He's just not doing that. So if
shout out to Laura. Laura sends a lot of messages
Yeah.
for podcasts. Laura, you're crushing it.
I meant you personally. Well, what I would
yes.
say, if I could, I'm going to coach Kev live here.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's all coaching is. What I just did with you. Now you're like, oh, instead of send more messages to podcasters, no, go connect with more podcasters. Threads, you posted about podcasting and you connected with podcasters. I would post more on Threads and connect with more podcasters. Boom. Now you'll get more clients. See, everything is way upstream, and if you go and ask enough questions, you'll get to the root of what you actually need to do. That's what my coaching is what do you need to do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you eventually get the outcomes you want? It's really... And then here's the thing that I've been struggling with lately is Emilia, she came to me, she's trying to create an algorithm. She has a group coaching program. She has 10 people in the group. She has gold, silver, bronze. She's trying to put celebrate the people who did the best in the program, and there's 5 metrics. There's attendance, there's engagement, there's all these metrics. And she has numbers for all of them. She's big into spreadsheets. She's got a spreadsheet for everything. And she asked me, how do I know who should get gold? And I said, what we're doing is we're setting up a cost value analysis, which is, okay, let's say I said, what's most important? She said attendance. I said, okay, cool. So weight that higher than engagement. And without going down the rabbit hole of this example, the point that I'm trying to make is asking the question is step one. And I have a client I'm thinking of, relationship talks coaching client, who said, I don't feel like I'm an existentialist like you guys. She's very humble to say that. I'm very grateful. She said, how do I become an existentialist? Like, how do I contemplate more? I said, it's all about asking questions. She said, well, I don't know what questions to ask. And I had this moment with Emilia recently where she was trying to level set some statistical data to try to make this algorithm work, and she didn't know what to put in Google. You know what's so interesting? People say, well, if you want to know something, you just look it up. No, you don't. You need to know what question to ask. And how do you know what question to ask? That's the question. Dude, there's 4 levels of competence. There's unconsciously incompetent. In other words, when Kevin and I were at the beginning of this journey of podcasting, we didn't know that we sucked. Then we started podcasting and we became very aware that we suck. That's called conscious incompetence. So you start out not knowing you suck, then you eventually know you suck. And then the 3rd level is conscious competence. We started getting good and we started to be aware that we're good. Now we're unconsciously competent. We have no clue how good we are at this. We've done it so much that if we were to start with a beginner, which I just was on with a beginner earlier, it is alarming how much better I am. So I've forgotten more than they know. That's like asking Michael Jordan how to dunk. He'd be like, what do you mean? You just dunk. He's forgot how he did it. And so with this contemplative question thing, it's not just asking the right questions, it's practicing this skill. Asking and answering questions is an executive function, neuroscientific thing that you at the beginning used to shut down. You want to know why? You were in the mental gym for the first time in a long time. If you and I go squat, you're going to squat more than me. If you and I go in the mental gym, I'm going to squat more than you. Why? Because I had done it more for longer, frequency, intensity, density, duration. And so if you're out there watching or listening, to bring this home and make it land, what are the questions you should be asking, and how often are you asking and answering questions? Some people are on autopilot. They're just going through life. And I'm not trying to be unkind, but I want to see you win. You cannot win winging it. You can't. If you do, it's luck. And honestly, even if you get lucky, you're going to feel trapped by that because you don't know how you got there.
Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there. I feel like I'm really good at knowing the question to ask Google for some reason.
I think you're good at questions. You're an existentialist. You've always been asking questions.
I guess. I don't know if I would say always. Probably not always. I think I probably would have had more results earlier in life if I was asking questions. I think a lot of the questions I was asking.
Questions.
Well, I was asking how. I was like, how do I do this? How do I do this? I was very how heavy. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think tactics are very important and very valuable, but you can how yourself into a circle if you don't understand why you are where you are. You can say, okay, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? Great. Awesome. A completely different line of thought is, why am I where I am today? Those are completely different conversations. Everything is different.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is different. Then where am I actually in comparison to where I think I am? That's a completely different, all of that. And again, we're getting very specific here, but I think a good habit or a good tactic would be go on Google and type, what are the top 20 questions I can ask myself to help with self-awareness? I feel like that would be very, very powerful. If you know how to use ChatGPT, I would say ChatGPT will be even better, honestly. But Google's a really good start. And again,
Google uses AI, so it's just as good, I think.
I haven't done it. I've used a lot of ChatGPT. When I do Google, it never answers the question. It brings up articles, at least when I've done it.
If you ask the question, Google more now lately, if you ask Google a question, half the time you'll get links to articles and stuff.
Yeah.
If you ask it right, you'll start getting an AI-generated response, which I think is really powerful. And then there's personality tests, Hexaco. All that is asking and answering questions.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? What's your greatest blind spot? How self-aware are you? All of these are questions. I decided when I was very young that I wanted to be as intelligent as I could be, and I knew that was all a process of learning through humble curiosity, which is just asking and answering questions. I've probably asked you 5,000 questions since we met.
So many. I've asked you a lot of questions too, you son of a bitch.
For sure. And that's why we're more aware now. That's
who asks better questions, you think? Me or you?
Brother.
You think you do?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, you ask pretty good questions.
Thank you. You ask very good questions, too. As a matter of fact, the Dreamliner, shout out to Lizzie. She's the one who came up with the 90 questions for the existing Dreamliner 2.0. Kev is now the director of that department. I actually have on my to-do list to tell you, I would love for you to take a whack at creating the next 90 questions, because you went and gave that speech to Evan Carmichael. You went and gave a speech on how to ask great questions in interviews. And I think that the Dreamliner, there's a question. So, for example, today, I'll go quickly with this, but today's question, one question a day, not 50, just one.
Just one.
Today's question, oh, that's the wrong page. 1 second. Okay. If you were to take a random sample of 9 people and you were the 10th, what might you be the best at? That's a great question.
Great question.
I said long-term strategic thinking and science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. Definitely not relationships.
What do you mean?
I think now maybe, yeah. But they never came naturally to me. That was
intimate relationships, or just... You have a freaking podcast about relationships. You better be in the top.
I am now, but it never
percentage.
came naturally to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It never came naturally to me. So I actually, that's new self-awareness for me right now is, yeah, I would say I'm probably in the top 10 on that. But when I was younger, man, no. I didn't understand. Engineers call people humans for a reason. We don't understand humans. People call me Spock from Star Trek. Spock is very rational.
Give me 5 people that call you Spock.
Who's
Give me 5 people that call you Spock.
Oh, I've been called Spock my whole life, brother.
Give me 5 names right now.
No.
In the last year, though.
Oh, no. Probably not in the last year.
That's what happens when you lose friends.
Who's the guy from... What's
Sheldon.
that? Sheldon, yes.
See that? That's how connected Alan and I are. He didn't even have to say the show. We're on the same wavelength.
I get memes of Sheldon all the time. And
yeah, you are Sheldon-like.
I am?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course. But he's also not very liked because he comes across as brash.
Yeah.
Right?
It's difficult to be mathematical and calculated without coming off like a dick.
I think it's difficult to be anything other than the people that you're surrounded with, because you're just going to be different. And I think oftentimes different is offensive, depending on what it is. I would say if I was the 10th person, moonwalking. I'd probably number one at.
Before we go, can we come
really,
up with the top 3 questions for our listeners to ask themselves?
No. 3?
You got
3?
this. What are the top 3 questions you've asked yourself over this hyperconscious / next level journey since starting the podcast?
Is this a me problem or a them problem?
Nice.
1. Will I regret this in the morning? I know that sounds funny, but yes, will I regret this in the morning? I ask myself that all the time. It sounds like I'm out partying.
That would have changed a couple of my decisions.
Right?
Sure.
It would have changed a lot of mine. Will I regret this in the morning? And is this in alignment? It kind of goes with that one, but is this in alignment? That question is so powerful. See, you can save yourself from regret if you ask yourself, is this inside of alignment? Is this outside of alignment? Yes, you're going to regret it probably. Or you're going to delude yourself into thinking there was something there for you when there wasn't. What are your 3 quickly? Quickly.
Number 1 is, what's the one thing that can change everything?
That's a great question.
So, for example, I'm going to answer it. Emilia Smith, my relationship with her has changed everything. I can't forget that. It's very important. Number 2, I love this one. What's the limiting belief that has disguised itself as empowering? An example of this is, you can do anything you set your mind to. That's some BS. Kev, real quick, a couple of my clients, their children know the intro by heart.
I love that.
I got to stop swearing. You know what
tough.
I mean?
It's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So for any listeners out there who have children that listen, we apologize for any of my previous F-bombs.
You just have to say earmuffs before you do it. I know it takes the allure and the emotion out of swearing in general. But
I'll say effin' or jeffin'. I'll say occasionally the S word or the A word, but I'm going to keep it. They were on a coaching session. They were singing. They were doing the whole intro. And I was like, oh, and the whole time I was just in shame. I was like, oh no, if you guys swear because of me. So anyways, what's the limiting belief that has disguised itself as empowering? You can do anything you set your mind to is not true. It's inaccurate. You can do a lot more than you probably think long term. That's more accurate. Okay, and then the third question would be, what am I really afraid of? What is it that I'm really afraid of? Because a lot of times you think, oh, well, I don't want to post that because I'm busy. What are you really afraid of? I'm afraid my mom's going to see it. And if she sees it, she might get stuck in shame of, the fact that my childhood was challenging. And even that is a polite way to put it. So what am I really afraid of? Well, if you actually ask and answer that question, you'll realize that you're just being a coward, myself included. We're all very cowardly. We don't mean to be. We're just human. We're afraid. Right? Why do you post on Instagram and not Facebook? Why do you post on TikTok and not Instagram? Because your relatives are on there. That's the real reason. Come on, samesies.
That's never been a thing for me. I'm weird in that.
You also didn't.
I don't give an F.
Yeah.
There you go. Take a look at it. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, you have different fears, but we all have different fears. But we all have fears. Yeah.
I have many fears. Many. I had 3 questions. Oh, what's the best that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? What's the most likely? It's a great set of 3 questions. Mm-hmm. And I do that all the time, and it's like, what's the worst that could happen? And I really go to a dark place. Like, that's not going to happen. You're going to log on with this client. They're going to tell you you're terrible. You are the worst human they've ever met in your life. They're going to ask for all of their money back. They're going to write 10 bad reviews about you. And then they're going to tell all your friends how bad you are.
I got to share a real quick story.
Yeah, sure.
Super fast. All right.
Quickly.
So I'm at a bar known as Pins in Milford. Okay. This is
a bar?
Massachusetts. Whatever, man. It's
a freaking bowling alley.
It's a bowling alley / bar / arcade.
Arcade. You got to give credit. You tell somebody it's just a bar, they're not going to understand how magnificent of a place that is. I used to go and get hammered and bowl. It was the best. The absolute best.
Okay, Pins. Milford, Massachusetts. It was a good time. So Friday, Saturday night, they would have a DJ come, and it would be a rager, really. They did it right. And one of my friends is really scared of dancing with women. He's really scared of approaching women. He's afraid to ask a girl to dance. And I was always trying to push him outside his comfort zone because I'm a pain in everyone's ass. And I was like, brother, what's the worst that could happen? He turns to me immediately because there's these two really attractive girls in the center, and they're very clearly looking at him. He's a stud. And it used to drive me nuts because I would see all these girls checking him out, and he's just such a coward, right? And I say, brother, those two girls are looking at us. Like, let's go ask them to dance. I said, what's the worst that could happen? He turns to me. I kid you not. He goes, I could die. And he said it tongue in cheek. I died laughing.
It does really feel funny. That way.
And the truth is that's not true. The worst that could happen is you get rejected, and then you have to question your self-worth, which, by the way, I do on the reg. It's all good.
I never understood dancing.
It's a blast, man.
Well, I think that must be like a college thing, right?
No, that's a human thing.
Well, yeah, but where did you learn to dance in high school? Or did you learn to dance in college?
I don't know, probably.
You just wake up one day, decide that you... What do you mean? We didn't have any dirty dancing in high school?
In middle school, we had the arms out sort of, baby, you're all that I want. Remember hab dances? Those were awesome. All I wanted to do was play sports. It's like, hey, Amy's crying because you didn't dance with her on the last slow
You're
song.
Sweating all over the place playing football.
Tackled.
Yeah. On the AstroTurf.
Yeah, by full-grown men.
I don't know how to... I'm not a very good dancer. Maybe that's just my thing.
Yeah.
I remember this. Yeah, we're out here jeffing. My buddy Matt. I remember the first time I ever went out like to the bar with him. I was like, oh my God, he can move. This man can move.
Yeah, I've been out with Matt.
It is wild. It's
Matt's
like, dude,
a good time.
He killed for you.
We went to Florida for an entire week, and we ran amok. I'm talking early 20s, ran amok. Man. We had a freaking blast. And yeah, Matt can move.
Next Level University / party occasionally university. You don't party anymore.
No.
You're boring as hell.
You grow out of things. But I'm grateful that I had an absolute blast.
All right, so that'll be the next course we do. Next Level dance routine. Alan and I, full screen, just moving and grooving. That'll be the next thing we have. If you're looking for a group of like-minded humans who are into this weird-ass thing called self-improvement and personal development, we have a private Facebook group called Next Level Nation. It is all about that. We'll have the link in the show notes. We would love to have you there. And just a friendly reminder, the reason it is private is not to keep you out. It's to make sure that it stays a safe, growth-minded environment. We don't ever really want it to be a public page that anybody can join because that kind of gets rid of the safe community that we're trying to build. So that is why it's private, not to keep you out.
If you want to set up your goals, metrics, habits, skills, and then work on yourself in a way that increases drastically the probability that you reach your outcomes, whether it's the BMW Kevin mentioned or the physique that you want. I was thinking about this earlier, success by design. That's what I do. That's what I love to do. And it's not just about why you're doing what you're doing. It's how to actually do it. And we will reverse engineer exactly what outcomes you want to create, and we'll create and iterate upon that. So reach out. The first session is free.
As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep asking questions. Next Level Nation.